Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to my YouTube class. This is my fifth consequence class. Today, we are going to have a class on climate change, global warming, and its consequences. The most important topic and worldwide is talking about the climate change because the Mother Earth is disturbed by the anthropogenic activities. The today classes we are going to learn the meaning of climate change, the reason behind of the climate change, either natural reason or man-made reason. What is the impact of climate change by the human activity and the consequence of climate change? How to mitigate the climate change in order to save the Mother Earth. Weather and climate change, they are interlinked, but little different is that. Weather is the change of temperature or relative humidity of one particular place in a minute or hour or in a day. Mean the meteorological parameters. It includes temperature, relative humidity, wind speed and wind directions or keep on changing every minute of one particular place. This phenomenon is called as the weather. Whereas in climate, the weather pattern of a particular place is keep on changing over the long period, that is called as a climate. So weather is a basic unit for the climate, and climate is a long-term changes of meteorological parameters. It includes the temperature variations and the fluctuations of relative humidity in air and change of wind speed and wind directions, and also change of monsoons and different climatic variations on the Earth's surface. The climate change are contributed by two factors. One is natural source. Natural source, volcanic eruptions are main source of certain polluted gas responsible for the warming of the globe, and ocean current also responsible for the change the water vapor content in the atmosphere from the ocean. For example, volcans or natural activity, the warmed up, it's built a pressure under the earth, and one particular time it's burst along with the fumes, sulfur containing pollutant and nitrogen containing pollutant and dust particles are released into the atmosphere in huge amount, and these pollutants are plays an important role in warming up the earth. At the same time, ocean currents are nothing but the water movement within the ocean in the earth. There are two currents which will keep on moving from one place to other place, that is warm water and cold water. Cold waters are present in the ocean where the temperature is very less. For example, Antarctic region and the western region, northern and southern hemisphere. And warm water are the oceans which will receive the maximum heat from the sun and getting warm in particular region. That region is called as a tropical region. Tropical regions are from the equator about to 12 degree in the north and 12 degree below the south from the point of equator. The regions receive the maximum heat from the sun, and the ocean surface are getting warm up. In order to balance the heat energy state of entire globe, the natural phenomena itself tend towards the movement of water, that is warm water is moving towards the colder region, and cold waters are moving towards the warmer regions in order to maintain the and solid tendency of temperature in the water environment. Because of the movement of water current fluctuations from tropical region to cold region, from cold region to tropical regions, there are two phenomena are going simultaneously. One is La Nino and El Nino. El Nino and La Nino. This La Nino and El Nino plays an important role in forming the cyclones in the tropical regions, where directly contributing the heavy storm in particular region, that is called as a flood and natural disaster, and many water flood is happening in the land area. Then followed by expansion of solar irradiations. The solar size of radius is expanding about 100 years and shrinking 100 years. So the fall of solar radiation on earth also is changing every 100 years. First 100 years is less and another 100 years is more. This is a natural phenomenon together contributing the climate change the globe. But these natural resources can be managed by our earth, mother earth. But anthropogenic activities, the emissions, pollutant from automobile emissions and industrial emission, and also solid waste dumping, are adding more pollutant to the atmosphere along with the natural source of pollutant and contributing variations of temperature on the tropical regions and the earth surface, that is called as a climate change. Now, what are the factors which is really involving into the climate change? The climate change or happen by trapping the heat energy from the solar flux and accumulating the heat on the earth's surface, that is a one way, and another way by observing the reflected heat during daytime, that is called as a albedo, and send back the same albedo radiation into the return to the earth's surface, which mean indirectly certain pollutants are not allowing the escaping heat from the surface to the outer space. Simultaneously, the two different phenomena together accumulating the heat on the earth's surface leads to the temperature rises called as a climate change. So what are the factors and what kind of pollutants are doing such a phenomenon in the atmosphere? Example, water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and ozones. Water vapor are getting into the atmosphere from the water surface water bodies, including ocean, inland water, river, etc., when the surface water is getting warm up. And carbon dioxides are released from the industrial activity and automobile emissions, and methane also from the dumping of solid waste in the open place, nitrous oxide, and ozones. Look at your figure here. These pollutants are emitted from anthropogenic activity. Anthropogenic activity mean it's a man-made activity by the development of industrial activity. These gases are accumulated in the troposphere. These greenhouse gases are trapping the heat from the sun and accumulating the heat into the earth's surface in the daytime. In night time, usually the excess amount of heat from the surface are sending back into the outer space in order to maintain the cold conditions on the earth's surface. But these greenhouse gases also not allowing the escape of heat energy from the surface into the outer space. Again, it's sending back. It's make the complete shield of entire troposphere and entire globe. Only it allows the influx of heat into the earth's surface and not allowing the reflected heat from the surface to outer space, and every seconds accumulation of heat is occurring every month and year and long year, and the overall the average temperature is slowly increasing. These activities being done by certain pollutants, for example water vapor and carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide and ozone, are named as a greenhouse gas. The greenhouse effects are trapping the heat accumulating on the earth's surface, and second, not allowing the excess heat releasing from the earth's surface into the atmosphere. The two factors collectively accumulating the heat when overall the global warming is taking place. Because of the reason, the average temperature of globe is slowly increasing every year. The temperature variations and increasing tendency of temperature in every year. Look here, this figure you clearly understand. And 18th century and 19th century and 20th century, and average temperature is slowly increasing even though the solar irradiation is less. So the increasing temperature leads to the overall global warming conditions and altering the many natural cyclic process. It includes rain formation and change of wind, then followed by landscape changes. These changes will affect the entire living organisms, including animal, plants, and mononoids, reptiles, whatever it may be. If the entire world is continues the same pollution emission, thus we predicted that the temperature likely to increase 0.3 degrees Celsius to 1.7 degrees Celsius by 2050. If the pollution rate is increased in double in the troposphere mean, the temperature likely to increase from 2.6 degrees Celsius to 4.8 degree Celsius. In such a drastic changes of temperature rise leads to the major impact on living and non-living organisms. Example, extreme heat phenomenon. The heat is increased mean where our energy will burn maximum in a short period where all the living organisms are exhausted. Then followed by natural disaster will take place, the unusual rain formations and continuous cyclone formation and pouring water, that is rain precipitations in one particular day instead of in the complete the monsoon seasons, leads to the heavy flood and damaging the entire agricultural land. And one other side, with absence of water, the land is getting drought and converted into the desert. So heavy rain pour causes the flood disaster, and absence of water leads to the drought disaster. Apart from the changes of relative humidity in the atmosphere and increasing temperature in the atmosphere, where the living organisms including plants, animals are affected. The plants may change their biological clock in order to produce the fruits. The blooming season and fruiting season will change, and also premature plant productions and unmature plant production leads to the increasing the pollens in unusual seasons. These pollen grains are allergic towards the sensitive immune suppressed persons, and most of the reptiles and insects are vanished, and unwanted and disease spreading insects and pests are increasing. For example, mosquito population in the land area is completely depend on the temperature rise in surface. If the temperature is keep on increasing on the earth's surface, vector-borne disease will increase, like malaria, dengue, typhoid, etc., etc., etc. And insect population will increase, and pest population also will increase, which will damage the crop and leads to the food demand. So the climate change not only warming the temperature on the earth's surface, it will alter the moisture content in the atmosphere, leads to the heavy flood, and also absence of moisture leads to the less water content on the surface, leads to the drought. And because of the fluctuation of meteorological parameters, living plants will change their biological clock to turn towards the different respond for the production of flower and fruits. And also many plants are not at all getting flowering because of unfavorable condition of weather patterns in the earth's surface. Then followed by increasing temperature leads to the pest population and insect population will causes the vulnerable to the human being because of the heavy risk of malaria, dengue, and typhoid. I hope all of you understood the present classes about the climate change and consequences. So overall today we understood what is the meaning of climate change, and we understood the weather and what are the factors responsible for the climate change and the consequences and mitigation measures. About the mitigating the climate change is increasing the green cover, where the trees, the green cover biomass, which will absorb the carbon dioxide and sinking into the bark or leaf, that is called as a carbon sinking. And second, we need to cut off the emission from the industrial sector and also from automobile sector. So the carbon dioxide content in the atmosphere will be reduced. So how we can mitigate the climate change in the future. And we need to turn towards the green energy or renewable energy to avoid the fossil fuel. So three factor: one is expanding the green cover, and avoiding the fossil fuel consumption, and finding the renewable sources or the energy consumption. The three factor, the only source for mitigating the climate change in the global concerns. Thank you one and all for listening my class today.